Bomb a bomb bang a dang dang bada bing a ding a ling a ding ding doo doo. Boom 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 boom. Oh, sorry. Shit, I did not realize I was recording. Um, Hi there, everyone. Welcome to We Are a Crotchety Old Man,
And a woman.
the podcast with you, for you, and even sometimes about you. So today's podcast is going to be very different than our normal podcast, as we try to make things we try to make light of as many things as possible. But with the seriousness of yesterday, we actually canceled our podcast yesterday and wanted to wait one full day. Um, Abigail and I yesterday were pretty excited for it was yesterday was National Frank and Beans Day, and we even bought hot dogs and some beans, and we had a good time and went to the dog park, and everything was normal. And then we had some crazy stuff happen, right, Abigail?
Yes, I was just, yeah, shocked.
Yeah, just ready to go. So we are uh, going to talk about today. We're going to do our normal because it is National Mac and Cheese Day, and who does not like mac and cheese? Now, I gotta admit, when I was younger, we really didn't have regular mac and cheese. We would have Kraft mac and cheese. We would have like the no frills version. Like the box actually said macaroni and cheese. It was a white box, green label. It was not the best. Um,
Well, I personally like just the Kraft mac and cheese as an adult.
yes,
I
my.
mean, it tastes so yummy.
Have you tried Stouffer's?
Yes, I have. And those are a different type of macaroni and cheese. But the Kraft is typically a little bit more liquefied, if
Okay.
that
Okay.
makes sense. And it's just superior, in my opinion.
Nice. I'm actually, I like to have some spam with my mac and cheese, but I didn't want to subject poor little Abigail to me cooking up some spam and having the dogs running
No,
around.
never gonna happen.
We have little Benji and Toto, who, by the way, I like to say, thank you for everyone who is liking all of the Toto and Benji pictures on Twitter. We love sending those out. So today in history, we're just going to do a short list because we want to get into the main part. And Abigail is biting at the bit. I could actually see her. She's like, she's ready. She's amped. Um, so this day in history, we had some very important things. In 1789, French revolutionaries stormed the Bastille, which is kind of like a castle. And there was gunpowder, there was powdered shot, there was all sorts of musket balls and things. They actually were able to break into the Bastille in France, and it was one of the first steps of the French Revolution. Which, without the French Revolution, we wouldn't have had Napoleon. We wouldn't have had a whole bunch of other things that have happened later on in history, which was actually going to be part of last week's show. I mean, this week's show, where I was going to say what happened if that the United States didn't win their independence, and it was going to be a whole thing on like what would have happened because the French Revolution wouldn't have happened. So, uh, with that, the next thing happened in 1881. Billy the Kid was shot by
Hmm.
Garrett, and he was killed. And sometimes people say that there's no evidence of Billy the Kid actually being shot. That's an actual conspiracy. And the last one, this one I actually didn't know, and I never even thought about it. The world's last telegram was sent, and it was in India. I honestly did not know people do not send telegrams. I really like, I guess I should have, but I guess with cell phones and everything else, yeah, the last telegram. Interesting.
What year was that?
2013.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty fascinating. People
That
don't,
is.
yeah, no one sends telegrams. Um, and let's see.
But Arden, how do they know that?
Well, this was the telegram service, so I guess there was a universal telegram service.
Okay.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I've never sent a telegram. I've only seen it on TV, where you'd have to say, hello, Joan, stop. You know, going to the market in France, stop. Anyway, So with what happened yesterday, once again, I'm trying to hold Abigail back because she's got a lot to say. I wanted to give a shout out because we have now had our very first person from Africa. We have a person from Rutensburg, or in the area of Rutensburg, Northwest South Africa, who listened to our show. So outside of Antarctica, we had now have had listeners from all over the world on every continent except for Antarctica. I don't even know if we could get someone in Antarctica. So way to go, us. Pat on head. Way to go, Abigail. It's all because of you and the dogs. It probably was. They probably saw the dog posts and said, "I got to listen to this program." So thank you for the person in Africa, the people from Europe, South America, Central America, Australia, Asia. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, spread it, spread the word, because now it's time to get into something a little more serious. Abigail, after
Or,
what you saw with Donald Trump last night being shot,
mhm,
this is not the Ask Abigail question, which by the way did have to change. Did you know that Teddy? You see, you were alive when Reagan got shot. I was alive when Reagan got shot. But did
mhm.
you know that Teddy Roosevelt was shot once? And he did not get off stage. He continued to speak for another 50 minutes, finished his speech, and then walked off stage. And he was actually shot in the chest.
Really?
Yes, I think, I mean,
That's
people, that that is the toughest guy. I mean, this is a guy who would hunt bears and stuff, and I mean, he was like literally a manly man who actually did his manly man best. But so I thought that was amazing.
it is. I mean, Biden couldn't even get through a debate.
Right. Right. I mean, Trump pumps his fists and everything else, but that guy literally finished the speech. I mean, just imagine if Trump got back out there and just kept talking. Like that would have
Well,
been.
I mean, in all fairness, we do have
Well,
Secret Service
they didn't
things
have Secret Service back then.
now,
Right. Now,
but it's a hell of a feat.
it is. It is. I mean, I couldn't do it. I'd be crying like a little girl. Well, I mean, like a really little girl,
Mhm.
not like Caitlin Clark. I'm talking like a little girl. As Abigail looks at me like she's going to punch me in the face. So what I'm seeing on a lot of Twitter and social media is the "Where were you" syndrome. Have you seen any of that lately? Like if there's anytime there's an event, there's always like, "Oh my God, it affected me so. Oh my God, when the plane was shot down in the other side of the world, I was eating breakfast." Like, have you noticed all that? Like, it's so now, like, you're starting to get the "where were you now" syndromes. But I share my story of where I was because it's very embarrassing.
Okay, I can't wait to hear it.
Okay, so we just got back from the dog park, and I've had to use the facilities. And so I'm sitting there in the man cave facilities in the bathroom, and my mother calls. First of all, why am I answering a call to my mom while I'm sitting there? That's a whole other story. But she calls and she's like, "Are you watching Newsmax right now? Do you see what's happening?" I'm like, "No, mom, what's happening?" Trump was shot." I get jump up out of the off the throne, and I'm waddling as fast as I can because my shorts are around my ankles, and I'm waddling as fast as I can. I pick up the phone and I'm like, "Oh my God, what the hell's going on?" Luckily, I didn't actually start going, so I'm not to be disgusting, and I quickly put my pants back up. But yeah, I now know where I was. Where were you? You were upstairs doing something. What were you doing?
Well, I was actually just turning on the TV to try to go, get to the Trump rally because I wanted to watch it. And it must have happened just a few minutes before I got on air. And yeah, at first, I thought, he was just hit with, some type of not shrapnel, but something. Because it did sound like firecrackers. And you didn't really see the blood heavily on his face, dripping from his ear until you saw the photographs. You
Right.
really couldn't see it in the video. Um, but it certainly was very alarming. And, obviously I'm a Trump supporter. And he happens to turn his head a lot when he does these rallies.
He does
He,
because he's always looking at people.
he's always looking around and making his points. And had he not turned the way he turned, it would have been his brain would have been blown out of his head.
It's unbelievable. But yeah, so that was crazy. And now, well, I want to point out that the Ask Abigail is the biggest thing we have as far as people reaching out to us. And people were going to ask you if we had this yesterday, it was going to be who's your favorite president and why. But now I just am going to ask you quite simple, Abigail, what are your thoughts on yesterday? Very simple.
Well, I mean, I have a couple thoughts. Um, the first is just Trump was typical Trump. I mean, nobody could have seen this coming, but the man literally, after it happened, he was cognizant enough to just dive to the ground. And, the Secret Service, that was a bizarre situation in that, obviously they surrounded him, but overall, the next few seconds and minutes were quite remarkable in that they didn't seem to be coordinated in how they were going to handle the situation to get him off that stage. But, Trump's worried about his shoes. I apologize. That is Benji in the background.
Oh, he's
I'll
loved.
take care of him in a few minutes. But going back to Trump, when they finally got him up, he, said, wait a minute. He held up his fist and said, fight, fight, fight. And the crowd just went nuts and chanting USA, USA. And as he continued to walk, he kept trying to pump up his fist. And when he got into the car, he put his head back out and raised his fist in defiance again. Even though the Secret Service, they were doing their best to contain him. Arden, you're just going to have to speak for a moment while I take care of the dog.
Oh, that's understandable. He's a diva. He wants to be on the show a lot. That both Toto and Benji are dogs. So there was also a bunch of problems with the Secret Service protection. I'm seeing a lot of flack for about them and how they handled the situation. Not going into conspiracies yet, but like they had people who couldn't back. Like he's a big man. He's a very large man, and to have people shorter than him, I don't care if it's a man or a woman, to have someone shorter than him who can't cover him, that looked bad. The fact that they couldn't force him off the stage, the fact that the one Secret Service person knows how I'm saying person because I don't want to say because she's a woman. I'm not going to go into the whole DEI thing, but she picked up his hat. No, you don't pick up his hat. You get him out of there ASAP. I mean, at that point, even though he's the president, he might have injuries. Your adrenaline is rushing. He might have had other injuries that he didn't know about. Very famously, um, people did not know Reagan was actually even shot when he got into the car. People did not know. So the fact that he was actually sitting there, like trying to get his head up and trying not to make any, no, because especially when he was getting into the SUV, like no, his head should not pop up again. They should have forced him off stage. That was really, really bad.
Well, how about, I mean, the comical part was when they did get the door secured and they're waiting for the SUV to take off. And one of the women's Secret Service agents just put on her sunglasses like she was some cool dude. And then she even took her jacket and straightened it out. And it was just bizarre. I
Just
mean,
it was.
was she on, did she know she was on camera or something?
I
I
have
mean,
no. I'm looking at the picture right now because I have the camera. I actually have the TV on, and it shows that they're trying to get him into the van, and it has the four women. I'm sorry, three women in front next to two heavily armed riflemen. I don't know if they're from SWAT team. I don't know who they are, and they're just kind of blocking the crowd. Well, they're all short. I mean, they're not that tall, and he's a big man. And there he is. He actually stood up. You know how there's that little thing you step on to get into the SUV? He actually stood all the way up. So what is he, 6'5", something like that? Trump?
He's a big dude.
Yeah. So he's like 7 feet high, and he just gave himself a bigger target. I don't know. So that was really bad. And
Right.
and you didn't like the sharpshooters. What was that? What was your comment about that?
Okay. It's again, first and foremost, how did this kid get on top of that building without no one seeing him in law enforcement? We all know the crowd saw him. They warned the police officer who just apparently was confused. And you saw the police officer walk by the area, but no one looked up as far as law enforcement on the ground to see what the hell was happening. But, again, this morning I hear that they actually pointed out as the kid was climbing up a ladder with the rifle. So this is before he even got on the roof.
Right. And they just watched him.
And no one saw him. Again, this is talking about law enforcement, specifically the Secret Service. Um, before I get into the detail, why wasn't that building under heavy surveillance, given how close it was to the stage?
Right.
Uh,
150
Arden, I'm
yards.
sorry,
Not
but again, you need to take over for a second. I'm sorry.
not a problem. Let the dog speak. He has his opinions as well. So he was there. There's actually the BBC. They interviewed a gentleman who was talking directly to the police, and he said for over 7 minutes they kept pointing out. I thought it was 2 minutes, but they kept pointing out over and over and over that there's a guy on the roof. He's got a gun, and nothing happened. But it brought up an interesting question that I had that I don't know what the answer is, so I'm asking it to the people. What is and Abigail's back. Here's a question. When are you allowed to use deadly force? Where? This is possibly part of the conspiracy side that I was thinking of because I know if he was climbing up with a rifle, at what point is he able to be shot? Meaning, does he have to like if he had the gun and was on the ground, and he's just standing up on the roof without the gun? Could the Secret Service shoot him? Like at what point are they allowed to actually shoot him? Does he have to be physically aiming? Because one thing I did see is that they had to possibly, this is the conspiracy part, they had to wait for him to physically shoot before he was allowed to be shot. Does that make sense?
I don't think so in this case. And now we shift to the sharpshooters on the roof, behind or near the stage. They have pretty clear video that there's a spotter, and then there's a sniper that is elevated above that spotter. And they show that sniper looking in through the scope. He raises his head as though to look. I don't know. I mean, the scope is going to be magnifying, but
Correct.
he felt the need to lift his head up before he went back down and made the shot. But if you notice, the gun doesn't even move, or the
So,
rifle. It
so
doesn't even move. So they must have seen that kid, and how they allowed him to make a shot, actually multiple shots, before they fired that round that, killed the kid, blew his head off, whatever you
yeah.
want to call it. It is a little weird. Why
And
was
that's why I come up with that question. Like, because if he never fires and the Secret Service kills him,
Well, I think the
it's
protocol has to be you take him out. I mean,
right.
the kid had a gun.
He had a gun, but was he a direct threat to? I mean, we're now living in a society where, we can't, if you break into a house, the person has a knife and you have a gun, you're not allowed to shoot him. So, I mean, I'm just taking it to a whole new world. And I'm asking our audience because I don't know the law. I want to know, did they have to say he's a direct threat to the president? And when is that call made? Who makes that call?
Well, whoever made that protocol is a fucking idiot.
Yeah, I mean, was it the sniper who actually? I mean, in the movie American Sniper, great example. Did you ever see that movie?
Oh yeah,
American. Well, do you remember when he literally had his had the gun trained on the little kid, and there was the AR-15 next to the little kid, and he's speaking, and he's like, "Please, kid, do not pick that up, because if the kid picks it up, he shoots him."
right.
He had to wait for proper protocol to come down. If the kid picks it up, he shoots him, but the kid didn't pick it up, and that kid lived. So like that, I want to know. That's one of my things, which goes into the whole conspiracy thing. Like you have all of these people now saying it was staged. Seriously, I don't care if you're the greatest shot in the world to actually be able to hit Donald Trump in the side of the ear. Like, no, that doesn't happen. Like, it could not have been staged. And then you have all of the pundits saying he fell down, and this was all caused by the Republicans. Like, did you see that? Like George Stephanopoulos blaming the Republicans for this, saying they're the ones who caused it really
It's
makes me angry.
outrageous. And again, I've been watching the whole political theater for the last few months, if not over a year. And the rhetoric against Trump by the left has been atrocious. Hitler, threat to democracy, rapist. I mean, just the night before, Joe Biden said all these horrible things about him. And when you look at Trump, I can't vouch for every word he's ever said, but overall, he just makes fun of Biden
Calls him
and
Sleepy Joe.
calls him the worst president
Right.
in the in history.
Worst president.
He doesn't take, doesn't demonize Biden.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I just don't see that. Even the pundits on the conservative side, they don't demonize Biden.
No.
And it but let's go back to the sharpshooter. It's almost as though you do have to question what that sniper was thinking. He
Or ordered.
clearly he had that guy in sight.
They had
Because
one. There's
the
one video
rifle
of him with binoculars.
right, but the spotter
Right.
had to have him in sight because the rifle did not move left or right. He literally lifted his head, went back down, and pulled the trigger. So they had him dead to rights. But how that kid was able to fire the gun before his head was blown off is beyond me.
And get
And
off 8 shots.
right, 8 shots. And is it the protocol now of the snipers and the Secret Service that they have to hesitate before they shoot? That just can't be.
Yeah.
Again, there's going to be investigation after investigation into this. And if there is something where the secret or the snipers have to hesitate until a shot is fired, that's ridiculous. And again, in this particular case, that kid couldn't have just crawled up and shot, on the fly. The kid had to get set, and he should have been shot right then and there,
Right.
obviously. But again, that video, I challenge anyone to tell me that that rifle moved at all.
Yeah. And it's. I mean, they knew something was going on in that side. That's why I want to know. And hopefully, I know they're investigating. Wow, my phone is. A bunch of people are texting me like crazy. Probably with questions. And then like going back to the whole like the TV pundits have just like if you notice Joe Biden is said he's not going to be at least 51 ads he's not airing. I wonder why he's not airing. Is
Yeah,
he
there's
calling? Is
precedent.
he calling? Is he calling Trump Hitler again? Is he calling him a threat to democracy? Is he? I mean, obviously there are some people out there, and I've heard a lot of people say there are a lot of crazy people out there who may try to do something. It's kind of like back when Gorsuch was being threatened, by Chuck Schumer, saying, here comes the whirlwind, and you had the crazy guy who went to what was it, Gorsuch's house with the duct tape and everything. Like
Hmm.
there are some crazy people out there who will do something, and then sometimes they are taken by the media, and so we have seen it in the past. But in the past, no, really, we haven't seen anyone killed. And you had Representative Dan Goldman, who he was very big in the January 6th commission, and he's been part of every one of the impeachment processes. Like, he actually has said that Donald Trump must be taken out. Now, I mean, back then it was probably everyone just assumed it was financially, financially imprisoned, but it can go to that next step. And I'm not saying that this kid was, I mean, I'm assuming like that this kid was a lone gunman. I don't believe it, it's this big Democrat plan. Like, he definitely wasn't a professional because we would have known that he was in the military or something like that. Um, and it's just awful that this is happening, and then people who may, and I say may have caused the problem, continue to blame others and don't look at their own wording. So they take down these 51 ads. Are they not going to air them later in the year? Joe Biden is fighting for his political life right now. And are they not going to say, okay, after the Republican convention and after all this, where Trump might get a gigantic bump in the polls, that they're not going to go back to this playbook again? Because they can't go after him on anything else. Are they going to just say, oh, it's the abortion card, abortion, abortion, and that's it? They got nothing.
Yeah, I still
Sorry for
go
my
back. I
dent.
still go back to the fact that, even Republican ads, which really haven't been pouring out yet, but that could just be, because we live in Loudoun County, and Loudoun County is not, um, Republicans may not want to invest in ads in this area, but
Loudoun
even
County, Virginia, for those outside of this little area.
so, but the pundits on the Republican side, again, they don't, no one's demonizing or calling Biden, names as far as being evil.
Well,
Yet,
I've heard them
but
call him evil. I have heard that.
okay, well, they focus predominantly on policy when they're
Correct.
talking about him.
Correct.
Whereas the Democrats don't really talk about that. They simply talk about how much they hate this man, Trump. And all I know is even in the being shot had to have been very traumatic and frightening for him. But he was stood up and was a leader. And that iconic picture will go down in history with him with his fist up, blood running down his cheek, and the American flag right behind him.
It's
That will
amazing.
go down as, one of the most iconic pictures, you know, in our lifetime. And, for him to have the fortitude to pump up that crowd, and let's talk about the crowd. I
That was
mean,
awesome.
really there was panic, but I was shocked that there wasn't trampling, with everybody trying to get the hell out of there. Um, it was a little amazing. And, had this been the other way, would there have been protests out in the streets
Oh,
where,
last night.
yeah, I mean, but there was no such thing that I'm aware of that any conservatives or radical right hand, people were protesting in the streets and burning things down. To my knowledge, didn't happen. But if it was the other way around, I
Oh, yeah.
guarantee we would be
Antifa
talking
would have
about
been
more.
out. Yep,
Yes.
Antifa would have been out in full force, and you'll hear, well, the Proud Boys might be doing this, and the Proud Boy. I honestly have no clue about the Proud Boys, except that when the media brings them up, which is disgraceful. And it's just there is no reaction. Our reaction is to go to the ballot box, and I hate when they say that. They go to the ballot box and actually vote Biden and all of these people out, and then hopefully the Republicans actually can have some useful legislation, if that makes sense. It's all about threat to democracy. Well, what's a bigger threat? Killing your opponent? I mean, that's what Russia does. Putting your opponent in jail. That's what Russia does. Trying to destroy your opponent financially. That's what Russia does.
Arden, I have to interrupt you.
Sorry.
Breaking news.
Breaking news, ladies and
The
gentlemen. Live.
AP, the AP is saying that a local police officer climbed up to the roof of the structure where Thomas Matthew Crooks was stationed. The officer reportedly engaged with Crooks, who pointed his rifle at him. The officer retreated and Crooks fired shots at Trump. Unbelievable. This is partially probably because police are afraid to act.
Yes,
All
because they could
because
be held accountable first.
right, the accountability and the second guessing of our police officers and other, military type operations. This is unbelievable that I just read that
Yeah,
a cop did get up to the roof, spoke to the gunman, and because the gunman pointed his rifle at him, he retreated, and this kid was able to turn around and take shots at the president.
which
That
is
police
amazing.
officer, that police officer is I can't express how, what is he, a coward?
I don't know. I will hopefully never be in that situation, so I
Did
can't.
he not have a gun? I mean,
Well, there's a big difference between a person with a gun, a rifle being aimed at you, and you not having your pistol out. So I,
again, police officers should immediately shoot to kill.
in that situation,
If they're ever faced with anyone that's got a gun, whether they're being pointed at or not, it's a threat. And the guy should have shot that kid as
if
soon
he
as he
had
saw him on the
if
roof.
he had the opportunity, you will have to wait for that one to come in. I
I
mean,
guess,
we
but
had that problem with the school where the police didn't go in. That was about a year ago, where the kids were killed in the school because the police did not act fast enough. And so many people are saying that's why this is, maybe this was laxed. Maybe there was just a lot of fuck ups in the whole process. I mean, there's a lot that has to be on one, but will we ever know? When we had that one crazy woman guy, the transgender person who had the manifesto, we never learned why. They became a victim instead. And right now, Trump's the victim, point blank. But we already have people saying he's not the victim, that it's his fault for all of this. And
again,
they always say it's both sides, both sides. No, 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 no. It is the Democrat side right now. Take ownership of it. If you're a Democrat, take ownership of it, because this happened because of some wacko gunman who then they're like, well, he's a registered Republican. Like that came out immediately. He's a registered Republican. I mean, he hasn't voted yet because he wasn't old enough to vote in the last election. So he's never actually voted, so he has no really vote. But he did. I mean, he donated a big deal, $15 to a Democrat. I'm sorry, a left-wing organization. Supposedly, he doesn't have that much on his social media account, but they do have the video of him talking. I have only seen that on one news channel so far. Have you seen it? Where he's like driving his car, and it's like a 9 seconds of him
no.
of how he hates Republicans. I've only seen it, and I've had on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and Newsmax. I've only seen it on Newsmax. They're the only one that's shown him. I've seen Dan Bongino get cut off the air while he was talking about the Secret Service. And this is a Dan Bongino, if you don't know, it was a Secret Service agent who worked for the Obamas, and he worked under Trump and not Trump, excuse me. He worked under Bush and Obama. And he talks about how bad this is and all the mess ups there have been. And his feed was cut. Conspiracy, yes it is. And it's just, we're in a world where everything happens, but Republicans don't riot. We're not out there even peacefully protesting. We're not even doing that. We're just waiting, buying our time, caring about our leaders, caring about our neighbors. I mean, the one man who was killed, he was killed literally leaning over his kids and his wife, and he gets killed. So he was protecting his. And you saw some of the, like, you see real people react, like the one doctor who just jumped in and tried to save his life, and the people next to him needing water, and they were thrown water, like, by everyone was there. They didn't, as you said, they didn't run away. They didn't run for their lives. They were there trying to protect. If you watch that video, you will see uh, people leaning over other people to protect them. It's amazing. That's what should happen. Not, oh, run for your lives. And also, not that many people on their phones. There were a few, yes, there were, but there wasn't a bunch of people just taking videos of it, which
No,
is and that's why you haven't really seen that much video outside. I mean, I'm looking right now, like, when people are giving the press the finger and all of that, which is kind of funny. Then there's one girl who was like yelling "F you" to the media, blaming them, but there's only like 5 people holding cameras. I mean, the president of the United States has just been shot, and there's very few people with cameras. There's some. There are some. I'm watching it live, right? Not live, from yesterday.
okay,
Um,
I have to go that if there was a police officer that was standing up on that roof while that kid was laying there with his rifle, how could the Secret Service not have seen that? The gun, the sniper gun was aiming in that direction. The guy was looking through the scope. He had to have seen that police officer and he had to have seen that shooter. He should have fired that shot immediately, but instead he raised his head. Maybe that's when the shots were fired, that he raised his head and then he went down and shot the kid. But again, it's just, I know it's all preliminary and things are going to come out and obviously in the next few weeks, if not months. But I would love to hear the video alongside that video. Sorry, the
can I
sound.
stop you right there? The right now, Fox News has it on right now. They have video, and by the way, the spotter also has a rifle. Both are trained. The first bullet, the first shot, you can hear the shot. Now, of course, sound travels slower than the bullet. So the first, I'm sorry, they travel almost the same speed. You hear the sound. The next shot is they're both shooting. They are armed. They're not looking up. They're both trained on that shooter when the shots come out. They have the actual, because they can actually show that image where the bullet is behind, the vapor trail of the bullet is behind them, and they're showing it right now. So they waited until he actually shot at the president before they returned fire.
Exactly. That's what
And it's only a couple seconds, like it's seconds, but that's
but
it.
but a sniper should have taken that kid out immediately.
Before he
And
even before he even like went down on the ground. Like that's the threat. I want to know is if someone had created a procedure where he was not allowed to fire until that kid fired.
well, it's gonna come out, and if
Hopefully,
that's the
hopefully it
case,
comes out.
everybody, they need to clean house at the Secret Service. And obviously the chief's gotta go. But again, in my opinion, and again, I'm no expert, but that sniper should have taken the kid out. The police officer should have taken the kid out. But that didn't happen. And President Trump could be dead right now.
And there
And
would be a lot of little liberals very happy. And that also made me sick to my stomach looking at those videos last night. Uh, And
mhm.
anyway, that sadly we do have to run. You get the last word.
The last word is, I can't wait to hear exactly what the Secret Service has to say, as well as this local police officer that, AP just released this. It could be false, but it's most likely the truth. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of talk, and I can't wait to learn more about it. But I just thank God Trump's okay, because he is going to win in a landslide.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. We are a crotchety old man.
And a woman.
And you could reach us at Twitter at we are crotchety old. I'm sorry, at crotchety old man. That's Twitter at crotchety old man, or email us at we are crotchetyoldmen.com. We are crotchetyoldmen.com. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good day.